Are there any actions you think people can do or people can start taking to change things around?
Well, yes. I mean, of course, you can take action on every level, and I think that's really important that we do that. Look, I think when it comes to biodiversity and peace, which is, what the title of this was, it's really important that we look at this in terms of the biodiversity, the plants and animals and so on that are on land, but also at sea, because both are under attack. At sea, we have massive industrial fishing trawlers hoovering up the fish in the sea, which has a massive impact on coastal communities that are dependent on fish as a protein source. I mean, and particularly around, coasts like around Africa and so on. So I think that what we really need to do is lighten our footprint when it comes to our consumption and the type of consumption that we have. Because one of the most important things we can do, for example, is have a more plant-based diet. Because we know, for example, I'm just abstract, I know this is not going to happen, I wouldn't even recommend it to happen, but say everybody on this planet had a plant-based diet, the amount of land that you could give back to nature would be about 75% of agricultural land. And that's a huge area. I mean, we're talking about an area the equivalent of the US, Europe, China, and Australia. So that's how much land is used for grazing cattle and providing animal feed for cattle, not for direct human consumption. So what we need to do is kind of rebalance our relationship with nature, where we're giving a bit more space back to nature, both for biodiversity to thrive, but also as a store of carbon and all of the other things that nature gives us. Because at the moment, we're consuming more than one planet in terms of the resources. And that's completely unsustainable. And that's where the problems really start to begin. When you're not living in harmony, you're not living in balance with the natural environment. And I think the same thing goes on the oceans. We need to consume less fish, and particularly industrially produced fish, which is so harmful to fish stocks and is undermining so many coastal communities around the world that are dependent on those fish stocks. And I think that the other thing is also using the land and the seas to actually feed people, because I think at the moment one of the problems is so much of the land is being used, for example, for biofuels. It's being used for industrial purposes, or it's even being used to put fuel into our cars. This is also, a real problem, because what we really need to be doing is using the land and the seas to feed people. And we need other solutions. For example, we don't need to put biofuels into our cars. We can make them electric. We don't need to burn fossil fuels. We can use the sun and the wind and the waves to give us renewable energy. We really do have a lot of solutions to the problems that we face out there. But what we really need is individuals to really press hard for governments and businesses, and even in their own behavior, to actually change the patterns of consumption that we have at the moment.
Thank you so much, John. But we're mainly going to wrap up by talking about how we can actually make action and how we can encourage people to actually move on some of the issues we've talked about. So I'll start with you, Michael, first. What actions can individuals take to avert the catastrophic biodiversity loss?
Well, I think picking up off of John's comments, which were well said, is I think ultimately people can make well-informed, better decisions. And what they need to do is do the homework, do the research to understand what the impact, the effect of their decisions is having on the planet. And, when they understand that, then they need to vote, and they need to vote with their wallets. And when consumers vote with their wallets, then businesses listen, and business has to make change and drive change as well. So, voting with the wallets, making informed decisions, doing our homework, and knowing that each step of the way we have to make decisions that are going to positively impact the planet, not just today, but keeping in mind that future generations are at stake here.
Thank you, Michael. What about you, John? What actions do you think individuals can take to help avert some of the catastrophic biodiversity loss?
Well, look, I think we need to see, individuals having a lot of agency and a lot of power in different aspects of their life, because I think that, if we have a job, then we're in a workplace, we can talk to colleagues, we can influence the companies that we're working for. We can also influence the communities and the local authorities where we live. For example, there's a big campaign where I live, for example, to get community charging points, to get community gardens, to make more allotments available for people to be able to grow their own food and so on and so forth. So communities can come together at a local level to make change happen. Of course, we're also all citizens. So if you're not living under an authoritarian regime, then you have the right to vote, both at a local and a national level. And I think you should use that vote to be able to influence the outcome of governments, and particularly to try and vote for candidates that really put the environment at the center of what they stand for. And this is, I'm not saying you have to be with any particular political party. I think there are very good individuals in many different political parties that are very good on the environment, and we need more of those. And I think also the other thing is just to have courage. I think what Greta Thunberg has done has been extraordinary in terms of mobilizing youth, and she certainly displayed an enormous amount of courage, sitting outside that Parliament building for months on end, ignored or abused. But I think that, she stood up for what she believed in and became quite a catalyst for change. And I think it would be great if we saw lots of Greta Thunbergs all over the world in all walks of life, whether it's the workplace or the school or even government or local authority, is that we need more people standing up, speaking out, taking risks, demanding that action is taken. And last but not least, yes, we have a wallet. If we decide that we want to have a more plant-based diet because that's the right thing for the environment, then companies will follow suit. They'll try and meet the demands of that market. It's not easy to do, I know, because you just think you're one individual. But I think collectively there are now millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people coming together around the world. And I think that does collectively give us quite a lot of power and quite a lot of influence that we didn't have a few years ago.
Thank you so much, John. If you're just joining us, we just had a Making Peace with Nature panel. So to just round up some of the points that we had, we have heard that the catastrophic biodiversity loss can be a catalyst for conflict, and because today is about peace, we understand that as individuals we have agency, and that we can also vote with our wallet, and we can also have courage to demand for change in our community. So thank you so much for joining our panelists.